بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السيشن على الكوردينيشن اند ريسبونس، وده موضوع الناس بتعتبره شويه بيبقى صعب شويه على الناس انها تفهم. مش عارف ليه، الموضوع بسيط خالص. احنا هناخدها على 3 سيشن ان شاء الله: كوردينيشن اند ريسبونس. هناخد الاول الكوردينيشن اللي هو النيرفس سيستم coordination and response. Then we will take the chemical response in the form of hormonal response for different stimuli. واخر سيشن ان شاء الله ناخد البلانت، هتبقى على البلانت. فاول تو سيشن هتبقى على الانيمال، واللاست سيشن هتبقى على البلانت ان شاء الله. هيبقوا ورا بعض. فزي ما اتعودنا دايما انه السيلابس بتاعكم انه الاوبجكتيفز بتاعتنا النهارده ان احنا نخلصها، ان احنا ندسكرايب ديفرنت بارت بتاع السنترال نيرفس سيستم، النيرفس سيستم اللي بيكون سنترال اند بريفرال نيرفس سيستم. هنعرف ديفرنت بارت، هندي شويه معلومات زياده شويه عن الديفرنت بارت والفانكشن. طيب، للناس اللي منكم بيحبوا they are willing to know everything. طيب، هنأندرستاند نتكلم شويه على التايب اوف نيورون، وده كومن كويشن اكزام. وهنتكلم شويه على حاجه اسمها synapse and this is also commonly coming in the exam. وبعدين هناخد حاجه اسمها ريفلكس ارك. this is also common questions exam. coordination the one of the exam cornerstone. طيب، describe the structure function of the eye. هنتكلم بقى شويه على الاي والاكوموديشن to near and far object, or accommodation to according to intensity of light and so on. وهنتكلم شويه على بعض الديسيزز اللي بتيجي في الاي اللي ساعات بيبقى موجوده في السيلبس بتاع في بعض في بعض منكم بياخدوها في السيلبس، والناس بتبقى تعتبرها صعبة شوية. نحاول إن شاء الله نبسط. طيب، نبتدي إن شاء الله. طيب، نعرف الأول some terms and definitions مهمة جدا إن إحنا نعرفها عن النيرفس سيستم. إنه شوية بيزكس بسيطة خالص. 3 terms أو 4 definitions. الستيمولس دي كلمة very common in the nervous system، لأن هو النيرفس سيستم ريسبونس بتبتدي بحاجة اسمها stimulus يعني some changes that happen in the surrounding around you. يعني مثلا واحد اتعرض لتشك الدبوس، واحد اتعرض اتلسع في النار، واحد شايف خطر جاي عليه، فده ستيمولس. الخطر هنا ستيمولس، النار ستيمولس، الدبوس مثلا اذا الشكه بالدبوس دي بتبقى بينفول، فذيس از ستيمولس. طب الريسبونس هو الرياكشن to this change to this stimulus. الريسبونس ايه الديفينيشن بتاع الريسبونس؟ يعني ايه الريسبونس؟ يعني الاستجابه بتاعتك لهذا التغير اللي حصل. طيب، البندل اوف نيورونز، لو في مجموعه البيزك سيل بتاع النيرفس سيستم اسمها نيورون، ونحفظ الاسم كويس. البندل اوف نيورون لما يبقى في مجموعه من النيورون بيعملوا حاجه اسمها نيرف، والنيرف ده زي بنقولها احنا للناس العاديه لما يبقى في بيشنتس ولا حاجه، فبنقول لهم او في مرضى فعشان نشرح لهم المرض اللي عندهم نقول لهم نسمي النيرف دي الكتريكال كيبل. It is like electrical cable. الالكتريكال كيبل زي ما انتم عارفين بيتكون من شعيرات صغيره دقيقه لافه حوالين بعضها. The same is a bundle. The same nerve is a bundle of neuron. نيورون لفه على بعضها. طيب، الريسبتور اللي هو المستقبلات اللي بتحس الاستيمولس. سهل الموضوع. They are group of specialized cell. هي specialized cell that detect the change in the environment and stimulate electrical and start electrical impulse in response. فالريسبتور هي عبارة عن cells specialized in detecting any change. Detecting is a stimulus. Change in the environment. Change in the environment is a stimulus. And stimulate electrical impulse. This is the response. وتبتدي electrical impulse to send this electrical impulse to the nervous system to coordinate the response for this stimulus accordingly. فالسايكل بتبتدي بstimulus, a change in the environment, then the receptor will be stimulated and respond by sending electrical impulse for the central nervous system for coordination of response. يعني الريسبونس بتاع الريسبتور هنا primary response أو استجابة أولية. Sending this impulse to coordinating center in the spinal cord and central nervous system. Then an order will come from coordinating center to the effector، يعني بتبعت للرئيس والرئيس ياخد القرار and send it to the effector، send an order to the effector. الافكتور either organ either زي الايد مثلا لما تتلسع بدبوس يجي اوردر تشكل دبوس مثلا او تتلسع بالنار، يجي اوردر للهاند انها تمشي بعيد عشان ما يحصلش to protect yourself. فالاوردر اللي هو ابعد ايدك عن النار ده remove your hand from fire، this is an order and the effector here are the muscles. So the effector may be muscle may be heart. example كمان عشان يثبت المعلومة انه مثلا when you are doing exercise the centers in the brain will send to the heart and lung to increase the heart rate and respiratory rate respectively. You understand? Do you understand this point? So this is a response. So what is the stimulus here is the exercise, and what is the receptors? The can anybody tell me? The receptor here is the increase in the level of the CO2 in the blood, which stimulate a specific receptor in the carotid and aortic artery and the aorta. Then impulse will be sent for central nervous system for waiting for the order. The order here is to increase the heart rate and respiratory rate and the depth of respiration, and increasing the heart rate and stroke volume, increasing the amount of the blood coming out from the heart to supply the muscle by oxygen needed for aerobic respiration. اظن دلوقتي كله مربوط ببعضه، يعني لو حصل فيه اكسرسايز، الاكسرسايز هيحصل عايز more energy more aerobic respiration. aerobic respiration هيطلع منها CO2. CO2 will be detected by specialized receptor present in the aorta and the carotid artery. Carotid artery is the artery supplying the brain. Both this receptor will send the impulse to the central nervous system. السنتر موجود فين؟ قلنا برافو للناس اللي شافت الفيديو بتاع respiration gas exchange and circulatory system. السنتر موجود في حته في البرين اسمها المظله، هنتكلم عليها دلوقتي. المظله containing the respiratory center and vasomotor center or the center controlling the circulatory system. يطلع منها اوردر من الكوردينيشن من المظله، يطلع منها اوردر للافكتور. الافكتور هنا not muscle، الافكتور هنا زان organ which is the lung and the heart. lung to increase the rate and depth of breathing عشان يزود الجاز exchange to eliminate CO2 and to introduce O2 to the red blood cell. Then an order to the heart to increase the rate and the amount of the blood ejected from the blood coming out from the blood with each beat, which is a stroke volume, to increase the cardiac output. So supplying the muscle with more blood carrying more oxygen to help for more aerobic respiration and more removal of the CO2. Do you understand the point now? So this is the rule. This is the connection between the three systems: the breathing system, the circulatory system, and central nervous system. Okay. Human nervous system is consisting of central nervous system, which is the brain and the spinal cord. The brain and the spinal cord. And the brain containing the higher center and spinal cord are acting as a a connector between the brain and the peripheral nervous system. Peripheral nervous system, they are nervous all over the body. The function, it allows us to make sense of our surrounding, to make sense عشان تحس بالsurrounding and respond to them and coordinate and regulate your body function. Information is sent through the nervous system as nerve impulse or electrical signals that pass to the nerve along the nerve cell known as neuron. النيرف سيل اتفقنا انها اسمها الحركي النيورون، الشهرة بتاعتها هو النيورون. النيرف سيل هي النيورون. اوكي طيب نشوف الرسمه زي ما قلنا. السنترال نيرفس سيستم هو البرين and the spinal cord. The brain containing the higher center and spinal cord and في sensory receptor زي مثلا موجوده في السكين زي اللي انت بتحس بيها، وفي sensory receptor في السنس اورجان. ايه السنس اورجان؟ زي الاي، زي الاير، زي التانج، التيست ريسبتور موجوده في التانج، زي التاتش باي ذا سكين، وفي اسمه ريسبتور وبارا ريسبتور وكيمو ريسبتور. دي موجوده فين؟ موجوده اللي احنا قلنا عليها موجوده في الكاروتيد وفي الاورتا. طيب البرين لما يجي له امبلس من هنا، لما يجي له امبلس من هنا، يجيب القلم. البرين لما يجيب له امبلس من هنا يبدا توصل هنا في sensory neuron sensory or afferent neuron بيسموها sensory neuron. نيورون يعني ايه؟ نيرف سيل. فسنسوري نيرف سيل بتسند الامبلس من الريسبتور convey the impulse electrical impulse from receptor when stimulated by stimulus which is a change in the environment. التشينج دي ممكن يكون light، ممكن يكون sound، ممكن يكون smell، ممكن يكون taste، ممكن يكون touch في السكين. فالستيميليت بيستارت الريسبتور الستيمولس بيستيميليت special receptor in this organ. And this receptor will respond by sending electrical impulse through the sensory neuron, sensory nerve cell to the brain and spinal cord to understand and coordinate the response. And then the brain will send order or impulse, electrical impulse, to the effector organ through a motor neuron, through something called motor neuron, motor nerve cell. Here is sensory nerve cell is conveying from the receptor to the central nervous system, and here is motor neuron conveys the electrical impulse containing order to move and to take after taking the decision. This effector organ may be muscle, maybe the muscle to move your hand away from fire, or to run away from a danger that's going to threaten your life. And effector organ could be cardiac muscle, could be smooth muscle, could be glands to secrete hormone. Cardiac muscle to increase the rate, as I informed you the 1 minute ago about the response to exercise. Smooth muscle also, smooth muscle can move and doing an action and so on. طيب structure of the neuron دي take it like this. neuron زي اي سيل، like any cell بتتكون من سيل بادي and اكسون. ادي التركيب البسيط للنيورون. السيل بادي في برانشز كده طالعه منه بيسموها دندرايتس، وفي لونج اكس منها، وان برانش بيبقى لونج خالص وفي اخره بيبقى فيه نيرف اندنج كده وشويه برانشز برضو. الاكسون زي ما انتم شايفينه كفرد باي حاجه اسمها مايلين شيس، والمايلين شيس ده بيبقى انتربتد، مش كونتينوس، انتربتد هنا كده وهنا كده. دي بيسموها النود اوف رامفي على اسم الاخ اللي عملها. والمايلين شيس ده بيتكون من سيلز اسمها شوان سيل، هي اللي بتكون هذا المايلين. والمايلين ده انسوليتنج لاير، فايدته ان هو بيسرع الكوندكشن اوف ذا الكتريكال امبلس ثرو ذا اكشن. زي ما انتم شايفين الدندرايتس دي البرانشز اللي موجوده هنا عند السيل بادي بتكونكت with the other dendrites of the other neuron، فتعمل نتورك of connection عشان for rapid transportation of the electrical impulse. ونفس الحكايه الدندرايتس هنا بتند ات بتكونكت with other neuron، فعشان كده النيرف امبلس الامبلس غالبا بتجامب هنا، يعني not conducted from action from through the action continuously. لا the impulse is jumping from node from VA to another node from VA, and this will more so the conduction will be faster than if it is going continuously like this. A collection of the nerve cell, collection bundle of nerve cell are making the nerve. This is the nerve. It is عبارة عن collection of the nerve cell. Okay. Again, this the diagrammatic explanation showing that in the central nervous system they are the brain and spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system executing or doing the order coming from the central nervous system and conveying information from the periphery to the central nervous system, and then taking order through the motor neuron, motor nerve cell to execute an order issued from central nervous system. So we have a sensory division, detecting any changes in the environment, sending through peripheral nerves through the sensory neuron to the central nervous system. Then the central nervous system, red here, this red color, will send to the motor neuron. This motor neuron can end in the muscle, can end in the organ, can end in the gland. So a response would be formulated. So let's talk a little bit about the brain. Our brain is composed of something called cerebrum, and this cerebrum نحاول نشرح الموضوع ببساطة إن شاء الله. This cerebrum are composed of two hemispheres, right and left cerebral hemisphere. Both of them are called the cerebrum. And this is different from cerebellum. Cerebellum ترجمته بالعربي اسمه المخيخ. This is the cerebellum. This one. This part is the cerebellum. But from here to here, all this is called the cerebrum. And it is two hemispheres. Two hemispheres, right and left. The right one is controlling the muscle on the left side of the body, and the left one is controlling the muscle at the right side of the body. Okay. فالناس اللي هم بيكتبوا بايدهم الشمال بيبقى السنتر كنترولنج هيمسفير بيبقى الرايت هيمسفير، والناس اللي بيكتبوا بايدهم اليمين بيبقى كنترولنج هيمسفير بيبقى الليفت هيمسفير اند سو اون. بيتقسم بعد كده الى موتور اريا وسنسوري اريا، وبيتقسم للوبس زي كده فرونتال لوب. والفرونتال لوب ده هو المسؤول عن السوشيال سكيلز، يعني ازاي تتصرف، مسؤول عن السبيشاليتي، السوشيال، مسؤول عن الجادجمنت، الايموشن ريجوليشنز وهكذا. الموتور ستريب ده مسؤول عن الموتور الموفمنت اوف ذا بودي. السنسوري ستريب مسؤول عن السنسيشن، سواء كانت ديب سنسيشن او superficial sensation and so on. في عندي كمان البرايتال لوب. البرايتال لوب ده مسؤول طبعا عن الرايتنج والريدنج والكالكوليشن واللانجوج بروسيسنج اند سو اون. في التمبرال لوب. تمبرال لوب فيه بيكومباين السنس with memory، يعني can connect with the sense if you are seeing somebody since 10 years and now you are seeing again, so you will remember this man. This is the function of temporal memory and combine senses with memory. If you are smelling a smell of kebab مثلا and now 1 year passed without smelling this, when you are smelling this smell again, then you will remember and you will understand this smell, and it is responsible also temporarily for object recognition and understanding language and speech and hearing. Occipital loop, this part, it containing the processing of the visual information, and the visual impulse coming from the eye will be processed here. So you would see the images coming from the eye is converted, and here the image you will see as it is. So this is the visual processing area responsible for sight. Cerebellum, I will tell you two information about cerebellum. It is very important for balance and coordination of movement. If the brain's cerebral hemisphere is giving order to move your hand from one place and to another place. This movement without cerebellum, the movement will not be smooth. So you will move from a definite place to another place. Suppose that I'm telling move your hand from your nose to your mouth, to your finger. Move your finger, put your finger in the nose and then put in the mouth. If you are moving your finger from nose to mouth, it is a smooth movement. But in case if there is cerebellum is not good, then this movement will not be coordinated well. What the meaning of coordinated well? Yani you will not put your finger on the nose. You will make many trials to reach the point on your nose. So your finger will go forward and back and above and below, above and below. You can't detect the same point that if the cerebellum is. So there will be the coordination of movement in order to move your finger from nose to mouth to be done smoothly like this and repeatedly like this. The cerebellum have to be good. If the cerebellum is not good, you can't coordinate. Another part is important for coordination of movement is here, which is the basal ganglia. And the affection of this basal ganglia, which is part of the brain responsible for coordination of the movement, are causing a disease called Parkinson's disease. This Parkinson's disease, one of the main features that the movement will be slowed down. So movement will not good because the muscle is not coordinated well. Cerebellum, if not, if there is a disease in cerebellum, you will find abnormality imbalance. So the person can't can't keep his body balanced and may fall down. The other last part is the brainstem. Brainstem is composed of three parts, but we are concerning with an important part, which is the lowest part here. The lowest part here is the medulla. You remember the medulla? This medulla, I told you, it containing the respiratory controlling center and the circulatory controlling center. And so it is concerned with controlling breathing, increasing or decreasing, and the heart rate increasing or decreasing, and the blood flow through the body. And all motor and sensory pathways coming from brain above the medulla is passing through the medulla. So if any problem here, so there will be a problem for orders going down to the spinal cord and subsequently to the peripheral nerves, and so outcome is not good. Okay, so all motor and sensory pathways cross sides of the body from the brain to the spinal cord. So if anything affecting this medulla, the person will be severely harmed. Okay, so in short, cerebral hemisphere. And this cerebral hemisphere controlling the motor, emotional, personality, speech, reasoning, sight, or visual processing, visual information processing, hearing information, taste, memory, identifying people, identifying objects, identifying places, so calculation, writing, language, everything is done. Cerebellum responsible for balance and coordination of movement, basal ganglia responsible for coordination and muscle of movement, and the medulla containing the vital centers controlling the circulatory and the respiratory, and most of the motor and sensory pathway are passing through the medulla here. So any affection of the medulla, there will be affection of this motor and sensory pathway, and the whole central nervous system will be affected. Okay. Let's talk about the nerve cell, which is part of your exam. This very common in your exam. Nerve cell, as I told you a while, that cell body become the cell body والأكسون. الcell body are feeding the right كتيرة connecting with nerve cell or neuron, and the axons covered by something called myelin sheath. This myelin sheath is produced by some cell called Schwann cells, and this myelin sheath is not continuous but interrupted at this nodes at this area, which is called nodes from V. Nodes from V, and the electrical impulse is not traveling continuously over the action, but it is jumping from one node to another, jumping from one node to the other, like this. So the nerve impulse, this will offer a faster transfer of this nerve impulse. Types of neuron: we have sensory neurons that extending from the receptor going to the spinal cord, relay neuron in the spinal cord, and motor neuron carrying orders from the central nervous system to the effector organ. There is a difference in the shape of each one of them. So there are main sensory, relay, and motor. Sensory neuron carry impulse from the sensory organ. This is the receptor. Look at the diagram. Look at the picture. This is the receptor of the skin, receptor on the eye, receptor on the ear, receptor on the nose, smell receptor, taste receptor on the tongue, and so on, touch receptor on the skin. And since extending from this sense receptor that detect any change in the environment and sending electrical impulse through this neuron, sensory neuron, that will go for the spinal cord. A relay neuron, which is present inside the CNS and connecting sensory and the motor. This relay neuron, from its name, it is connecting between the sensory and the motor neuron. Okay, and motor neuron carry impulse. This function of the motor neuron to carry impulse from central nervous system to effector. This words written in bold and red color is very important if you are asked for a question in the exam. They are very critical to mention it like this. So the sensory neuron carry impulse from the sensory organ or receptor to the central nervous system, and the motor neuron, the reverse, carry from central nervous system to effector And the relay neurons is present in the central nervous system, spinal cord, and the brain, and connect between the sensory and the motor neuron. طيب, are there any how to identify the type of neuron? This is very important. Very important questions examined. Mostly that question come in this part exactly. The sensory neurons are long, and the cell body in the middle. This cell body in the middle of cell body branching off the middle of the axon. يعني في جزء من الاكسون فوق وجزء من الاكسون تحت. دي sensory neuron وده cell body وده الاكسون. اوكي. طيب الريلي نيورون بتبقى are short and have a small cell body زي ما انتم شايفين السيل بادي بتاعها اهو. small cell body with many dendrites branching of it, والسيل body بيبقى موجود toward one side of the axon. اوكي. الموتور نيورون are long and have large cell body. طبعا الريلي نيورون دي بتبقى موجوده في السنترال نيرفس سيستم، مفيش داعي انها تبقى لونج، مفيش داعي، ربنا خلقها سبحانه وتعالى انها شورت عشان كلها موجوده جنب بعضها فين؟ في البرين والسباينال كورد. انما السنسوري نيورون دي بتنقل من الريسبتور وممكن تمشي مسافه طويله عشان كده بتبقى لونج. تنقل الريسبتور فين؟ في السكين مثلا your finger and sending to spinal cord. This is a very long distance, so it is long. And the motor, if there is an order from the central nervous system going to the effector, which is a muscle, going for your muscle controlling your finger, so this neuron have to be long also. The motor neuron has a large cell body, زي ما انتم شايفين large cell body at one end of the long dendrites branching of it, long dendrites branching of it. Okay, here is this is called the effector. Sometimes one exam I remember is asking for this. What is this? Is the effector. What is this? Is the receptor. This is sensory neuron, and here it's cell body. This is a structure. It will label like A or 1 or 2 in the exam. This is cell body, axon, effector, receptor, cell body, dendrites, axon, and presynaptic terminal. We will take synapses. Note that this is common in your exam. Note the difference between all of them. The synapse, as I told you, this dendrites in the cell body or at the end of the axon is these dendrites are connecting with the nerve neuron or nerve cell, nerve dendrites of the nerve cell. So the connection will not be direct connection. The connection, this is the end of the presynaptic cell. What's the meaning of presynaptic cell? And suppose that there is a nerve cell here, and this is the dendrite, nerve cell here, and nerve cell here. This is the dendrites branching from the cell body, and this is the dendrites branching from this cell body. Two neurons. They are not touching each other, but there is a space in between of them. And this space is called synaptic cleft. Cleft means that space between two endings. Cleft, synaptic cleft between two endings. The first end is pre. Pre means that before, and post it means that after. Presynaptic, because this area is called the synaptic area. This area is called the synaptic area. So this is a presynaptic cell, and this is the post-synaptic. Pre يعني before, post يعني after. Presynaptic cell, and here is the space is the synaptic cleft. So what is a synapse? Definition. Synapse is a junction between two neurons, is known as a synapse. There is how the impulses pass across synapse. Neuron never touch each other. This is a important rule. And neuron ما بتلمس بعضها. The junction gaps between them are called synapse. The junction between two adjacent neurons is called synapse. Include part of the pre-neuron, presynaptic neuron, and postsynaptic neuron, and synaptic cleft. These are the parts of synapse. Okay. And the electrical impulse travel along the first action. This is the first action, presynaptic cell action, or dendrites of the presynaptic cell. The electrical impulse reach here. This will allow the calcium. This is channel for calcium, called voltage gated channel. Will open calcium to go inside. This calcium will make the synaptic vesicle, something called synaptic vesicle, containing a chemical called the neurotransmitter, to go toward the end of synapses, presynaptic end. And this vesicle are rupture and release a neurotransmitter here. This neurotransmitter will stimulate receptor in the postsynaptic cell, and this stimulation of this receptor will send the electrical impulse that will run through the cell action and go for the next neuron and so on. So the electrical impulse travel along the first action. It stimulates the release of something called or chemical messenger called the neurotransmitter from the vesicle, which fuse with the presynaptic membrane and this neurotransmitter. So the electrical impulse it changed here into chemical messenger, and this chemical messenger or neurotransmitter will stimulate receptor in the postsynaptic cell, and this stimulation of this receptor will start an electrical impulse in this cell and so on from one cell to one cell. Okay, clear? You will take this in details in the advanced level. The neurotransmitter diffuse across the synapses in here, voltage gated calcium channel will open, calcium will go, stimulate this basically containing a neurotransmitter. This neurotransmitter will go to the end of the cell and release the neurotransmitter here. This neurotransmitter are destroyed shortly after being released. Otherwise, it will continuously stimulate the receptor, and this is not good because if there is an order is coming, so after sending the order here, no need for neurotransmitter to stay here, so it is destroyed. Okay, so neurotransmitter diffuse across the synaptic cleft and bind with the receptor molecule in the membrane of the second neuron known as postsynaptic membrane. This is called the postsynaptic membrane, and these are receptors of the postsynaptic membrane. Type. This stimulates the second neuron to generate an electrical impulse that travels down the second axis. The neurotransmitter are then destroyed. Neurotransmitter, and you have to mention this because otherwise the process of stimulation will be continuous. And synapse ensures that impulse only travel in one direction. يبقى ايه الفانكشن بتاع السينابس؟ It ensures that the impulse is passing only in one direction from presynaptic nerve cell to the postsynaptic nerve cell, avoiding confusion within the nervous system if the impulse were traveling in both directions. The impulse in the nervous system, as a rule, is passing in only one direction from pre to postsynaptic cell. From presynaptic cell to postsynaptic cell, this is the function, main function of synapse. And this is a good question if it's coming in the exam. What's the function of synapse? To ensure that the impulse in the nervous system is traveling in one direction only. Okay. Type. As this is the only part of the nervous system where messages are chemical, ده الجزء الوحيد في nervous system which is the synapse. The message are sent from receptor to the central nervous system or from the central nervous system to the effector. All of them are electrical impulse, but this electrical impulse in one time or in one place, which is a synapse, are converted into chemical messenger. So this is the part, the only part in the central nervous system that we can control through giving medications or drugs. We can give medication to stop this neurotransmitter, to neutralize it, and so on. And this is used in the treatment of many diseases related to the central nervous system. Here is a place where we can, the medical doctor or the physician can introduce medication to control the central nervous system. And here is a site where the medication like heroin at work. Okay. Then we'll move to the second or third part of this session, which is a difference between voluntary and involuntary response. Involuntary action are usually one which are essential to basic survival, and it is rapid. Yani when your finger touch a fire, then involuntary you will move your finger. You can't keep your finger and the fire because you are feeling pain. So this response is the painful response. You are removing your finger unconsciously, involuntary, away from this fireplace. Whereas a voluntary response often take longer, as we consider that the response might be before doing it. So involuntary action, mostly it is a fast response. It is a fast response, and it is not under your conscious control. If you are awake and you can control yourself, no, you can't keep your finger there because it is involuntary action. Involuntary action is not under conscious control. Conscious control, and you are awake and free to take the decision to do or not to do. Respond to avoid, and it is very important to avoid danger, and it's a fast response. And the same stimulus result in the same response. فمثلا like if you are pricked by a pin, you will withdraw your hand away or your foot away from the pin. If you are exposed for fire, so you will move your hand or foot away from fire, because both of them are causing a pain, and the pain will, in order to protect your body from being damaged by fire or the pin, you have to move this part of your body involuntarily. But the voluntary action, it is under conscious control. You can take a decision. You can take a decision. It is a slow response, and respond with benefit of experience. And you have experience to take the decision. Same stimulus may result in various responses. And if you are hungry, you can eat or not to eat. You have the ability to take the decision to eat or not to eat. Okay, and so on. So this is the difference between voluntary, and this is an introduction to the next item, which is a reflex arc. What is a reflex arc? A reflex arc is the basics of involuntary response. So if you are exposed, if you are your finger exposed to a fire, then you will remove your finger directly, involuntarily away from fire, just to protect yourself from your skin from being damaged by fire. So this involuntary response is called reflex arc. This involuntary response doesn't involve the brain, because if the impulse is passed to the brain, it will take time for the brain to take a decision. During this time, you may be harmed, your skin may be damaged. As the coordinated of the reaction, coordinator, as an impulse is not going to the brain as a coordinator of the reaction, because no time to send the impulse to the brain and waiting for a response from the brain. But the responses are carried out without awareness of doing it. At the level of the decision will be taken at the level of the spinal cord. This is an automatic and rapid response. The reflex arc is an automatic, involuntary response and rapid response. So the main characteristics of the reflex arc is that it is involuntary and it is a rapid response. And a stimulus such as touching something sharp or hot, as it doesn't involve the brain, a reflex response is very fast than any other type of nervous response. And the benefit is to help to minimize the. What's the benefit of the question? What's the benefit of the reflex arc? Why ربنا سبحانه وتعالى أعطانا reflex arc? Just to minimize the damage of the body. If you are exposing for fire, لو أنت اتلسعت من النار وفضلت حاطط صباعك في النار, this part will be burned and it will be damaged. The skin will be damaged. And if you are pricked by a sharp object, this sharp object will cause destruction of the tissue, and your tissue will be damaged. So in order to minimize this and protect you, Alhamdulillah, ربنا أعطانا reflex arc. This reflex arc is involuntary response and very rapid and response. فايدتها ايه؟ minimize the damage of the body. فايدتها يا اولاد في الامتحان minimize the damage of the body. الكاركترستكس بتاعتها is automatic, involuntary and rapid response. اوكي؟ طيب نعرف عنها معلومات بتتم ازاي. So it is automatic, fast, and the function is protective to minimize the damage of your body. بتتم ازاي؟ زي ما انتم شايفين هنا في شمعة، في فاير هنا. فلو انت your hand is near to the fire or coming to the fire, then the fire is a stimulus. Your hand containing a receptor that will send an electrical impulse through the sensory neuron to the spinal cord. The impulse is not going from the spinal cord up to the brain. Instead, the spinal cord will send a motor order through the motor neuron to the muscle to move your hand away from the this stimulus that will harm, in order to reduce the damage of your body. Okay, so the order is coming from spinal cord. The brain is not involved here. The response is involuntary and fast and rapid to minimize the damage of your body. Okay. طيب stimulus is a fire, receptor in the skin, touch receptor in the skin, sensory neuron will convey the electrical impulse. Receptor, after being stimulated by stimulus, electrical impulse will be generated here, run through the sensory neuron to relay neuron in the spinal cord. Then this relay neuron will give order to the motor neuron, to the muscle effector. Hina is the muscle, and the muscle will make a response by removing your hand away from this. In the exam, you have to include all of these 7 steps. Remember that it is 7 steps. What are the 7 steps? Don't forget any one of them. There is, you have to talk about the stimulus, the receptor, the sensory, and the relay neuron, motor neuron, nervous system. Then effector, the muscle, and then the response. So we are starting by stimulus and ending by response. In between, there is a receptor and the effector, and the 3 sensory, relay, and the motor neuron. Okay. So heat is a stimulus, sensory neuron send an electric impulse to the spinal cord, the coordinator. Here is the spinal cord is the coordinator. He may ask you in the exam, what is the coordinator here? The coordinator is the spinal cord. The electrical impulse is passed on relay neuron in the spinal cord. Then relay neuron will connect to motor neuron and pass the impulse on. Motor neuron will send it to the effector. Effector here is the muscle. The biceps muscle will contract, which is the response. Okay. So this is an example of the reflex arc. Remember that a common exam question is to be asked to draw arrows on the neuron in the reflex arc diagram to show the direction of movement of the impulse. So sensory neuron is conveying to the spinal cord. Remember the direction of arrows here. The sensory neuron, motor neuron in blue to the muscle. This is the effector. Okay, effector. Receptors are here. And this is a stimulus, receptor, effector, sensory neuron, relay neuron in green, blue motor neuron in blue. Make sure that you read questions carefully. Not all questions have a line underneath them to write an answer. Okay. Then we move to the last part of this session, which is the eye. Eye is an example of the sense organ. Sense organ are eye, ear, skin for touch, tongue for taste, and nose for smell. So, and here is a stimulus detected, light in the eye, sound in the ear, touch, pressure, temperature, and position. Chemicals, taste buds detect sweet, sour, salts, bitter, and chemicals. Really, eye is one of the issues that was difficult for me personally, during my medical college study. واحنا في الكليه كانت الاي بالنسبه لنا عمليه معقده خالص يعني، وكانت الستراكشر وهاو ذا فانكشن. بس شويه شويه الامور بتبقى بسيطه ان شاء الله. هنحاول نبسطها دلوقتي وتبقى الامور سهله ان شاء الله. طيب، وعلى ايامنا احنا ما كانش فيه انترنت ولا كان فيه صور ولا كان فيه اي حاجه خالص يعني، فطبعا كانت العمليه صعبه خالص. ولو الواحد لقي كتاب مثلا يشوف فيها وبتاع تبقى العمليه، يبقى محظوظ. طيب دلوقتي الامور بالنسبه لكم انتوا اسهل بكتير طبعا يعني. طيب اي هي احد السنس اورجان containing ريسبتور سيل. الريسبتور لازم زي اي سنس اورجان لازم يكون فيها ريسبتور، ولازم يكون فيه ستيمولس اللي هو اللايت، لازم يكون فيه ريسبتور. والريسبتور هتعمل ايه؟ برافو عليكم، الكتريكال امبلس بتروح فين؟ على سنسوري نيورون. برافو عليكم. السنسوري نيورون تتجمع مع بعضها وتعمل باندل وتعمل نيرف بنسميه الاوبتيك نيرف، والاوبتيك نيرف ينقل للبرين، والبرين فيه البروسيسنج اريا للفيجوال بروسيسنج فيجوال اريا للفيجوال ستيمولس للفيجوال سيجنال اللي جايه دي، ويبروسيس، وبعدين انت تبدا ايه تشوف الصوره بقى. فالريسبتورز نبتدي بقى تشوف ايه الريسبتور. طب ايه الاسئله بقى؟ الستيمولس واللايت خلاص عرفناه. ايه الريسبتورز الموجوده في الاي؟ الريسبتورز الموجوده في الاي عباره عن نوعين، حاجه اسمها رودز وحاجه اسمها كونز. الرودز بتديتكت الديم لايت، افتكر ار دي ديم لايت او ار ال. رودز بتديتكت ايه؟ اللايت. الكونز دي اللي بتديتكت الديفرنت كلر، سي سي. فالكونز بتديتكت ايه؟ الكلر. ففي تو تايبس اوف ريسبتورز موجودين في الاي. موجودين فين؟ موجودين في حته اسمها جوه الاي اسمها الريتنا، وده هياخدنا الريتنا او الشبكيه. ده هياخدنا ان احنا نعرف الديفرنت بارت بتاع الاي، هناخدهم من بره لجوه. خلينا نشوف الاي من بره كده. لو بصينا على دي حاجه اسمها الكورنيا اللي هي ان لايت بلو. الكورنيا دي اللي بيعملوا لها عمليات الليزك عشان بيشرحوها، بيقولوا عليها تشريح القرنيه، بحيث انه لما يشرحوها فيزودوا الكونفكسيتي بتاعتها فتجمع الاشعه بتاع الضوء اكتر، فالشخص اللي هو عنده قصر نظر يشوف احسن. طيب الكورنيا موجوده بره هنا، ودي ترانسبيرنت اريا وملهاش بلاد سبلاي. طب بتاخد بلاد سبلاي ازاي؟ بتتغذى ازاي؟ طيب لما ملهاش بلاد سبلاي، لان لو فيها بلاد سبلاي ده البلاد فيسلز كانت هتاثر على الكليرنس بتاعها. فلو في، تخيل ان لو في ضوء جاي واقع على الكورنيا كده، فالضوء ده هيخبط في البلاد فيسلز، في حته انت مش هتشوفها في الاوبجكت، واخد بالك؟ فعشان كده زي نو، الحمد لله ربنا خلقنا بيها نو بلاد سبلاي. طب بتاخد ازاي النيوترينت والاكسجين بتاعها for to be alive؟ بتاخدها by diffusion from the underlying area. by diffusion from the underlying area. تحت البيوبل في ايه؟ تحت البيوبل في الطبقه دي اللي هي اسمها السكليرا. وهنشوف دلوقتي شكل الاي من المنظر. لو انت باي طبيعيه بقى هتشوفها دلوقتي ونعرف ديفرنت بارت. لو انت باصص على الاي بتاع واحد قدامك، بتاع اخوك او بتاع بابا او بتاع ماما، هتشوف ايه؟ فتقدر تقول والله انا اتعلمت ان this is the pupil and this is the cornea, this is the sclera and so on. سكليرا الطبقه الخارجيه. تحت السكليرا في حاجه، الطبقه الزرقاء دي اسمها الكرويد. وبعدين جوه الكرويد دي طبقه صلبه هنا دارك ان كلر. طيب بتنتهي هنا الكرويد بحاجه اسمها السيليري ماسل، والسيليري ماسل ماسكه هنا بالاسود ده ليجامنت، سسبنسوري ليجامنت. السسبنسوري ليجامنت دي معلقه العدسه. دول السيليري ماسل والسسبنسوري ليجامنت دول مهمين جدا عشان يخلوا العدسه دي لو ريحت السسبنسوري ليجامنت دي ارتاح، لو شدت على العدسه هتخليها مور فلات، ولو ارتاحت لو اترخت هتخليها مور فات. فات يعني ايه؟ يعني بتصبح اكثر وتبقى مدوره اكتر. تحت البيوبل هنا في حاجه اسمها الايرس، والايرس دي هنشوف شكلها دلوقتي. وفي هنا الايلينز، في حاجه دي اسمها الانتيريور، في حاجه اسمها هنا اسمها الايكوس هيومر، سائل هنا بيحافظ على الحته دي من الاي انها تفضل منفوخه كده ومدوره. وفي هنا حاجه اسمها الفيتريس هيومر، فيتريس هيومر. الريتنا، الرودز والكونز بتبقى موجوده هنا في الريتنا اللي هي الطبقه الداخليه اللي انتم شايفينها دي. والرودز والكونز موجوده في كل الريتنا ما عدا الحته دي. الحته دي اللي هي بتجمع فيها النيرف سيل اكسون عشان تعمل الاوبتيك نيرف. فالحته دي ما فيهاش رود خالص، والحته دي يسموها البلايند سبوت، ما فيهاش there is no root. why it's called blind spot? because there is no root. طيب there are three types of cones cell. طبعا تعرفوا ان cones cell اللي مسؤوله عن detecting of color في ريد وبلو وجرين. ومعلومه كده على السريع ان الناس اللي عندها color blindness غالبا بيبقى عندهم نقص في تايب 1 تايب من this cone cell، وغالبا بيبقى الريد والجرين. فدي معلومه كده في ايه ديسيز ريليتد للكونز. الكونز دي بتديتكت الكلر، والديتكت عشان تخليك تشوف الكلر في منهم 3 تايبس، ريد وبلو وجرين، وكومباينيشن ما بينهم بقى. في بعض الناس عندها كلر بلايندنس، فهم عندهم ديفكت في الكونز، وعشان كده غالبا بيبقى في الريد اند جرين. الفوفيا is an area of the retina where almost all the cones cells are found. الفوفيا الحته دي مهمه جدا، rich in blood supply، وفيها الكونز موجوده جدا. دي الحته اللي احنا غالبا بنشوف فيها ودايما شايفين موجوده فين، قصاد البيوبل على طول، عشان تبقى الضوء بيدخل عليها على طول. دي المنطقه اللي احنا فيها almost all of the cones cell are found. الروت سيل are found all over the retina. يعني الكونز دايما بتبقى متركزه في الفوبيا، الروتس بتبقى موجوده في كل الريتنا ما عدا قلنا البلايند سبوت، الحته دي اللي هي ما فيهاش ايه روتس. اجين ركزوا معايا ان الروتس are responsible for dim light and the cones are responsible for color light for color detection. Most of the cones are present in the fovea. Rods are distributed all over the retina except in this area, which is a blind area. This area there is no rods at all. Where is the optic nerve? الاوبتيك نيرف bundle of neuron. كل الاكسونز بتاع الرودز والكونز دي، الرودز والكونز دي ريسبتورز بتبعت في الاخر ل اكسونز تمشي في الاوبتيك نيرف ينقلها للاوكسيبيتال لوب في البرين. طيب لو بصينا على الاي بتاع اي حد معانا، زميلك، اخوك، اي حد، فهتبص تقول له لا انا عرفت بقى، انا اتعلمت انه الابيض ده اسمه سكليرا، وده الايلid، اوكي، والشعر ده ايلid طبعا، ده الجفن الابر ايلid وده اللور ايلid. ايه الايرس؟ الايرس دي جزء من الاي موجود ما عرفناش نشوفه في الجزء الجانبي اللي هنا، ما شفناهوش هنا، بس موجوده هنا الايرس اللي هي، بس مش هتعرفوا قوي عن السيلري ماسل. يعني شوف ده بالسيلري ماسل وذيس از ايرس. فعشان نشوفه بجد بقى نيجي نشوف الفرونت فيو كده بتاع الاي. البيوبل هي دي. فين الكورنيا؟ الكورنيا هي طبقه ترانسبيرنت كفرنج الاريا دي، كفر ترانسبيرنت ملهاش لون وترانسبيرنت فيري كلير تدخل عشان تدخل الضوء without interference only to bend the light rays coming falling on the eye. This is the cornea. This is the cornea, and this below the cornea في هنا حاجه اسمها ايكوسيومر، وبعدين نلاقي البيوبل بقى الفتحه اللي بيدخل منها الضوء، والايرس سراوندنج ذيس بيوبل. فالايرس هنا الفانكشن بتاعتها ايه؟ الايرس دي لما تكونستريكت فالبيوبل بتصبح حجمها صغير، بتكونستريكت عشان تحمي الريتنا من الاي. فرضنا ان انت تعرضت لضوء قوي جدا، فالضوء ده لو دخل ونزل على الريتنا هيبوظ الروتس والكودز، فعشان نحمي الريتنا فالبيوبل دي لازم تضيق خالص، كونستريكت. and suppose that you are النور قطع، هتبص تلاقي النور قطع عندك في البيت، فهتبص تلاقي انت عايز اي ضوء يدخل للاي، فالايرس دي بتريلاكس خالص، فالبيوبل بتفتح تماما والدايليت عشان تدخل اي ضوء للعين جوه. تمام. فادي تركيب الاي اللي انت بتبص على سكليرا اللي هي البيضه دي، الازرق ده اللي هي بيبقى بني في بعض الناس وازرق واخضر في بعض الناس، دي الايرس. والايرس دي هناخدها كمان شويه، بتتكون من سيركولار ماسل لير بتبقى سراوندنج البيوبل كده، وراديال ماسل لير، راديال ماسل لير اوتسايد ذا سيركولار ماسل. هنشوفها كمان شويه. طيب الديفرنت بارت اوف ذا اي اند فانكشن. السكليرويد او السكليرا دي عباره عن فايبرس تيشو بروتكتنج ذا اي فروم اوتسايد. الكرويد بريفنت انترنال ريفليكشن، دي طبقه زي ما قلنا دارك اريا انسايد ذا سكليرا اند اوتسايد ذا ريتنا، فهي سكليرا كرويد ريتنا. سكليرا outside fibrous tissue protecting the eye. Coloroid is a dark area preventing internal reflection عشان so the light rays will not change by this dark area, and it supply oxygen and food and remove waste product. The rich blood vessels for supply oxygen and food and remove waste. Retina دي light sensitive layer فيها الروتس والكونز. والفوبيا دي contain cones which work in bright light and give up the sense of color. دي mainly الكونز قلنا موجوده في الفوبيا، وبيبقى شكلها يلو سبوتس عشان فيها كونز كتيره خالص. والكونز responsible for detection of color. الاوبتيك nerve carry impulse to the from the eye to the brain. vitreous humor ده جينيريك ماتيريال موجوده في الاي اللي هو احنا هنا قلنا عليه هنا، ده الفيتريوس هيومر، سوري ده الفيتريوس هيومر هنا. فايدته ايه؟ انه يكيب الاي راوندد كده، to keep the eye rounded like this. اوكي. السيلياري ماسل ده involved in focusing and suspensory ligament involved in focus. ايه السيلياري ماسل؟ هناخد القصه بتاعتهم دلوقتي. دي سيلياري ماسل، دي هنا سيلياري ماسل and suspensory ligament اللي هي السوداء دي، الاثنين ماسكين فين؟ يعني السيلياري ماسل ماسكه في الليجمنت والليجمنت ماسكه في اللينس، فدول بيتحكموا في اللينس، يا اما يشدوا على اللينس يخلوها فلات، يا اما يرخوا عليها فهتبقى راوندد. اوكي. الايرس اللي هي كنترول ذا اماونت اوف لايت انترنج ذا اي ثرو constricting or dilating the pupil. constricting يعني يخلوها صغيره، البيوبل اللي هي دي اللي هي الفتحه السوداء اللي في النص اللي هي نن العين اللي بيقولوا عليها، اللي بيدخل منها الضوء. فلو في ضوء كتير داخل فالايرس بتكونتراكت فتضيق البيوبل. لو ما فيش ضوء داخل، لو ضوء قليل اللي داخل فالبيوبل بتوسع على الاخر نتيجه حركه الايرس. فالايرس دي كنترول ذا اماونت اوف لايت انترنج. دي الفانكشن بتاعتها. كورنيا ترانسبيرنت فرونت قلنا دي فرونت بارت موجوده بره الاي خالص، and it help in refraction or bending of the light. اوكي، يبقى احنا عندنا تو حاجتين دلوقتي بيهلب فور refraction. الكورنيا عشان هي كونفكس and the lens used to focus object on the retina، فدي بتعمل refraction برضه. فتو اريا الكورنيا الاول بتعمل بيندنج لللايت وبعدين بيكمل عند اللينس. كل ده ليه؟ عشان الصوره تنزل على الريتنا مظبوط. الايكوس هيومر دي مينتين شيب اوف ذا اي برضه. الايكوس هيومر موجود هنا يا اولاد، هنا الايكوس هيومر موجود في الاريا دي، ده ايكوس هيومر وده فيتريس هيومر. اوكي. الكونجكتيفا دي بروتكت ذا كورنيا. الكونجكتيفا دي طبقه موجوده هنا ما بتشوفهاش، بتبقى موجوده فوق السكليرا هنا حوالين الكورنيا، يعني في هنا كونجكتيفا فوق السكليرا وبتكمل هنا عند الليمبس ده بالكورنيا بقى. اوكي. اوكي. طيب البيوبل ريفلكس، نبدا بقى في الكلام اللي انتوا ايه بتزعلوا منه. الكلام ده بيزعل ومعظمكم بيبقى مشكله فيه. البيوبل ريفلكس يعني ايه؟ البيوبل ريفلكس ايه؟ البيوبل الاول، البيوبل اللي هي البيوبل اللي هي السوداء الفتحه اللي بيدخل منها الضوء للعين، البيوبل. اوكي. ايه البيوبل ريفلكس؟ البيوبل ريفلكس ان هو ده ريفلكس اكشن، يعني زي ريفلكس ارك كده، ما بتتحكمش انت بيه. ده انفولانت ريفلكس، فاست ريفلكس، اند رابيد ريفلكس، اند بروتكتيف ريفلكس. قلنا الثلاث خصائص اللي احنا حفظناهم بقى، انه involuntary, fast or rapid or quick, and protective. Protective ليه؟ protect the retina from the eye, protect the retina from being damaged in bright light, and protect us from not seeing object in dim light. فبيعمل ايه؟ in dim light البيوبل بتدايليت، لو في عندنا ضوء خافت او ضوء ضعيف فالبيوبل بتدايليت على الاخر وبتوايدن على الاخر in order to allow much light, as much light into the eye. لو هو انت متعرض لبرايت لايت فالبيوبل بتكونستريكت، تقفل خالص عشان تحمي الريتنا، protect the retina from this bright light to be damaged، عشان هيدمج الروتس والكونز. فمثلا in bright لو هنا bright light هنا، فبنلاقي انه البيوبل بتكونستريكت، بتضيق، وفي الديم لايت البيوبل بتدايليت عشان تدخل as much of the light of the light can enter the eye to see in dim light. And here in bright light the pupil constrict or become narrow in order to prevent too much light entering the eye and damaging the retina. Okay, so in case of bright light pupil constrict. How the pupil is constrict and dilate? In order to know this, remember the iris. Iris is composed of circular muscle here. Look at this picture of the diagram on the right. There we have a circular muscle fiber, and radial muscle fiber of the iris. This is the iris, and this is the pupil. This muscle of the iris are surrounding the pupil. What will happen in case of bright light? In case of bright light, high bright light, the pupil become narrow, smaller, or constrict. All of them you can write them this. How is this done? By contraction of the circular muscle and the relaxation of the radial muscle. So in case of bright light, the pupil will become small. How is this? This circular muscle will contract to reduce, to narrow the pupil, and so long as this circular muscle contract, the radial muscle will relax. Okay, now what will happen in case of low light or dim light? The pupil will become dilate. How it become dilate? The reverse. The circular muscle will relax, and the radial muscle will contract. So remember that the pupil reflex is controlled by the iris. What's the iris? The circular muscle and radial muscle of the iris. In case of, if you need to control, if you are exposing for high light intensity, the pupil have to become narrower, constrict, or small. How to become small? The circular muscle will contract and the radial muscle will relax. In case of dim light, the pupil have to become big, wide, to introduce as much light inside the eye to enable you to see. How it will come? The circular muscle will relax and the radial muscle will contract. Okay? So in case of dim light, you will write this sequence in your exam. You have to write like this, that you are starting by receptor. Do you remember the sequence? Receptor, effector, and receptor, and then neuron, and then sensory neuron, renal neuron, motor neuron, and then response, which is the effector, and then the final result, what is the response. Okay, remember that you have to write like this in the exam, that photoreceptor detected change in light. Suppose that you are exposing to dim light. In case of dim light, so you have what you have to do, the pupil have to be dilate, the pupil have to become wide. How to make the pupil wide? The circular muscle fiber will relax and the radial muscle fiber will contract. Circular muscle will relax and radial muscle contract, and the pupil, what's the response? Pupil will dilate, so diameter is very wide, so more light enter the eye. So what will happen in case of bright light? The reverse. What is the stimulus here? Stimulus is photoreceptor detect the change in the environment, bright light. What we have to do, the pupil have to constrict. How to constrict the pupil? The circular muscle will contract and the radial muscle will relax. Circular muscle contract and the radial muscle relax. The pupil will constrict, the diameter of the pupil narrow, and less light. What's the final response? Less light will go to the eye. You have to write like this in the exam. If you forget to write one of them, then you will lose marks. So in summary, dark light, the radial muscle contract, circular muscle will relax, pupil size will wide. Just in the exam, dark light. What's the dark light? Dark light, in case of dim light, so the pupil have to dilate. The pupil have to dilate. How to dilate? The circular muscle will relax and the radial muscle will contract. And more light will enter the eye. In case of bright light, what is the response of bright light to protect the retina? The pupil will narrow. How the pupil will narrow? Circular muscle will contract, radial muscle will relax, and so the final response, less light will go to the eye. This is just to remember. So another part of eye is important, which is accommodation. Accommodation means that how's the eye, if you are putting your finger away from your eye, you will see when you are introducing your finger, bring your finger near, just in front of your nose like this, in front of your eye, then the eye will accommodate. The eye will see your finger either in a distant, if your finger is distant, or near to the eye. So how the eye is adapted or accommodates, how the eye is accommodate for this, being near and distant object. Another part, two factors are playing here, and remember this, they are not the circular and the radial muscle fiber, but here there is something called ciliary muscle fiber and suspensory ligament. Here is the lens system is working. What's the lens system? It is the ciliary muscle, which is this. I will bring the pen, and here is the pen. This is the ciliary muscle, and here is the suspensory ligament. This is the suspensory ligament, ciliary muscle. Very small muscle, but this system are controlling the lens. They either making the lens flat or thin, or making as in this picture, or making the lens swollen or thick. And when the lens will be thin or thick, the refraction will be changed. So in order to bring the object in front of the eye or distant from the eye on the retina, yani all of these changes are happening to collect the refracted light rays coming from the object on the retina to see it in a correct way. So the way of the lens bring about focusing yani collecting the light rays coming from distant or near object on the retina. This is called accommodation. What's accommodation? It is the way that the lens bring about fine focusing. The lens is elastic and its shape, اللينس بتاع الاي is elastic والشيب بتاعها can be changed when the suspensory ligament attached it to become tight or loose. يعني السسبنسوري ليجامنت دي، السسبنسوري ليجامنت اللي هنا واللي هنا ماسكه في اللينس كده ومعلقه اللينس، ممكن تشد فتخلي اللينس سن، ممكن ترتخي فتخلي اللينس سك. اوكي، وبالتالي يختلف الريفراكشن هنا، البندنج اوف لايت ريز coming from distant or from near object. خلاص، ايه اللي بيخلي الليجامنت تتشد او ترخي؟ السيلري ماسل. السيلري ماسل لما السيلري ماسل لما كونتراكت فالسسبنسوري ليجامنت بتريلاكس. لما السيلري ماسل بتكونتراكت السسبنسوري ليجامنت بتريلاكس فتسيب العدسه. لما السيلري ماسل بتريلاكس العكس بقى، السسبنسوري ليجامنت بتشد، فلما تشد على اللينس فتخليها سن. اوكي، عرفنا الريليشن، بس الموضوع بسيط. بيبتدي من ريسبونس. If you are seeing a near object, الريسبونس هنا بدأ بإيه؟ بnear object. If you are seeing a near object, then what the change will happen? This near object, you have to focus the lens more to bring this object on the retina. How to make the lens focusing this to accommodate for this near object? I'll tell you. So the ciliary muscle contract. When the ciliary muscle is contract, the suspensory ligament slacken, relax, slacken. This is a word that you will write in your exam. Slacken, relax. And when the muscle contract, the suspensory ligament relax. This allows lens to become thick or fatter. Thick. Then the light is refracted more. When the lens is fatter or thick, the light will be refracted more. So the object will be projected here on the retina. Next. This is the shape of the ciliary. This is a lens surrounded by suspensory ligament. Outside the suspensory ligament, Outside the suspensory ligament here, there is a ciliary muscle. When the ciliary muscle contracts, the ligament will relax and the lens will become thicker or fatter. When the ciliary muscle relaxes, the ligament will taut and stretch, pulling this lens, and the lens will become thin. So this happened in distant object. The ciliary muscle relax and suspensory ligament stretch or taut, and this allow lens to become thinner, and the light is refracted less, and so the light will be will come in the retina. Distant object, light rays are coming straight. So no need to focusing more. Remember this. In case of distant object, lights coming straight, no need for the lens to focusing them more. Finally, they will be easily to focus on the retina. But in case of distant object, in case of near object, the light rays coming is not coming in a straight line. They are coming in a different direction. So the skin, just remember this. The lens have to increase its focusing power. How to increase focusing power to refract more this rays on the retina? How the lens will increase its focusing power? By becoming thick, by becoming fatter, by becoming more rounded. And to do this, the lens to become fatter, the suspensory ligament have to, just remember like this. The suspensory ligament have to relax, and in order for suspensory ligament to relax, the ciliary muscle have to contract. You remember this. Remember that in near object, the light rays is not coming straight, so they are divergent in nature. So the lens have to focus more. In order to focus more, it have to become thick more. In order to become thick more, the ligament have to relax. And when the ligament, how to make the ligament relax, the ciliary muscle have to contract. So we can go from here, from down upward, this sequence. What's the target? Target is to, because the rays are divergent in nature, are not coming straight away, so the lens have to focus more, so to become thick. In order to become thick, the ligament have to relax. In order to the ligament to become relaxed, the ciliary muscle have to contract. And here is the reverse. Rays here are coming straight, then no need for extra work of lens, so the lens will become thin. In order to become thin, so it have to be stretched by the ligament. In order to stretch the ligament, the ciliary muscle have to relax. Just remember like this. So in summary, distant parallel, but in near there is diverging nature of the rays. So the lens have to become thinner, less convex. In order to the lens to thinner, you have to stretch it by ligament. So the ligament will have suspensory ligament have to be taut or stretched, and ciliary muscle to relax to allow the ligament to be stretched. And in case of near object diverging, the lens have to become thicker. So the suspensory ligament will slacken or relax. And in order to make them relax, the ciliary muscle have to contract. I think this will fulfill the issue. And this accommodation and the pupil reflex, in order to study, we have a short way and a healthy way. The short way is to just keep them like this by your memory. But if you are not deeply understanding them, you may forget this in the exam, causing confusion. You may be lost in the exam, and you're trying to remember and you will not remember. So, in order try to understand them, this is the proper way and healthy way to understand them. And I think now most of you will it's easy for them to understand what is the sequence, what's the target, and according to your target, you need to constrict or dilate the pupil. You need to you need to increase the work of lens, or no need for extra work of lens, and so on. Rapidly we will talk about two diseases, which is short sightedness. الناس اللي عندهم قصر النظر. الناس اللي عندهم قصر النظر الصورة بتتكون هنا. يعني these people has a problem that the lens is weak, so the collection of light rays will be in front of the retina, so the picture will not clear. They will not see. They are not able to see long distance. So these people are not able, because the picture will develop in front of the retina. In order to correct this, we have to use a divergent lens like this. This divergent lens or concave lens. This concave lens will diverge the rays, and then we are putting in front of the eye the light rays. Finally, before using this lens, light rays are coming in front of the retina. But here, after using the lens, after correction of the short-sightedness by using concave concave lens, then the object, the light will be refracted correctly on the retina. Okay, lightheadedness, long sightedness. It is a reverse of the short-sightedness. So we are calling it hypermetropia, and we are calling this myopia. This is for people who need extra information only. So normal eye, the object will be represented on the focal plane and the retina here. But in case of hypermetropia or long-sightedness, the object will be, the rays will be collected behind the retina. This is imaginary line, okay? So in order to correct this, we need a convex, biconvex lens to collect the rays before falling on the eye lens, just to collect them more and bring them on the retina. This is something you can work out in the exam if you have forgotten. Stay staring at your hand right in front of your eye. If you are putting your hand in front of your eye, then you will feel tight after some time. You can do tonight after this video. After a few seconds, you will feel tight, your eyes tight. This is because the ciliary muscle are contracting, and staring at an object away feel relaxing and comfortable because your ciliary muscle are relaxed. So far object, if you are focusing on the far object, your ciliary muscle will be relaxed and you will not feel pain or discomfort. And if you are focusing, putting your right hand in front of your eye, after some time you will feel your eye is not comfortable because the ciliary muscle are contracted. This slide is introductory to the next session. What's the difference between nervous system and endocrine system, which are the two systems concerned with coordination? Nervous system made of nerve, brain, and spinal cord. Endocrine system, nerve by gland. We'll take all types of gland next session, inshallah. There is an electrical impulse. There is a chemical hormone. Here is nerve cell. Here is the blood stream. How most of the transmission of this electrical impulse through nerve cell, and method of transmission of hormone through bloodstream, and effector here muscle or gland, and effector target cell in the specific tissue. The speed of transmission here is very fast because fast response is needed. The speed of transmission here is slower because we don't need any rapid response. Length of effect, how the effect will stay, how long the effect will stay, here is short. يعني just if you feel fire, you will remove your hand. It is short, removing your hand. Here is the effect in case of hormone or endocrine system. The effect will be long lasting and so on. Thank you. I hope you the first video. Please, I'm waiting for your comment, for questions, for any explanation. We will answer the topic questions, and you will be trained. You will be excellent in this topic, inshallah. Just read it rapidly, and we'll discuss later on. Thank you, and who is the best? Thank you.